Hey everybody, welcome back. 138 MMA here. I'm going to break down the entire UFC Vegas 71 fight card from the bottom all the way up to the top, from the prelims to the main event. We're going to cover every single fight, break down each fight individually, give you my pick and my prediction for each of those. Now, real quick, the Abubakar Nurmagomedov and Carlson Harris fight is off. Abubakar got sick, so that one's out, which I'm kind of relieved because picking him in that fight was going to be a tough one, and I hadn't quite made my pick yet. So there we go. We'll probably have to get the rematch down the road. If this is your first time to the channel, welcome. I'm glad you found this channel, and I hope you enjoy yourselves. Feel free to drop your comments below telling me all of your picks, and let me know how you shake up with mine, how we line up, all that good stuff. We have a good conversation in the comments on this channel, and we appreciate all of you. Now, if you are returning to the channel and you haven't yet commented, feel free to do so. Tell me your picks down below. But also, hey, welcome back. I'm sure glad to see you again. We're going to cover this card here in no time. Real quick, one more thing. Find me on Twitter, 138MMA, and you can also find me on Tapology, where you can see all my picking percentages, and 138MMA on there as well. Other big news coming very soon, but we're going to get into that later. So, UFC Vegas 71, let's go to the fights.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, 138 MMA proudly brings to you the hottest picks in the world!
Matchup between Tyson Nam and Bruno Silva. The flyweight Bruno Silva. Don't mix him up with the middleweight Bruno Silva. But here we have a 2-2-1 no contest for Silva, 3-2 in the last 5 for Nam. Both of these guys obviously kind of in that, middle of the road area right now in their last 5 fights. It's kind of a matchup between two very similar fighters, but there's a couple of differences in the physical side of things. Bruno Silva's the younger fighter, 32 as opposed to the 39 for Nam. Bruno Silva's the shorter fighter, though, where he's 5'4" with a 65-inch reach, as opposed to the 5'7", 68-inch reach for Nam. Now, both guys are powerful strikers that want to be able to go forward, but can also get backed up when met with forward pressure from their opponent. So that's the similarities. Now, there is the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu side for Silva. We're probably not going to get to see that because Tyson Nam has insane takedown defense. It's like 90-something% in the UFC. So we're basically going to see a striking matchup between a couple of powerful strikers. Now, the over-under is set at 1.5. I believe it's plus money at the under 1.5. I'm convincing myself to take a shot on the under 1.5 here, so, bear with me on that, because both of these guys are going to want to go out there and throw bombs. That's what they do. Now, when I look at Tyson Nam, he sometimes is a bit low volume, kind of waits for his shot, but when he finds that shot, he puts guys out because he has dynamite in his darn hands. Now, Bruno Silva doesn't hit quite as hard as Tyson Nam, but he still hits very hard. But he's got a little more volume than Nam. So I think one of these guys is getting put to sleep. And I think it's going to happen before the 1.5 round line mark. So I'm taking the under. I'm not going to go big on it. I don't think it's like a lock or anything, but I do like the under here. There is a long layoff on the side of Silva. So if he is just even the slightest bit rusty and Tyson Nam can capitalize on one of those shots, we've seen how much power this guy can pack in his 125-pound frame. So I'm going to just slightly lean Nam as the pick. I know he's the underdog. I'm going to slightly lean the Nam side, but not confident in that. I don't know. There's a lot of variables in this fight. I may get real crazy and go Nam by knockout, but I'm feeling wild here. Anyway, you guys let me know what you think. This is not my most confident pick of the card, but I'll see you in the interesting matchup at bantamweight here. We have Tony Gravely taking on Victor Henry. Both guys 3-2 in their last 5 fights. And this one's an interesting one because both guys are inconsistent. And if you know anything about the channel, if you've been here a while, you know that I hate picking inconsistent fighters. But in this one, guess what? I've got it because they're both inconsistent. Let me break this down a little bit. Victor Henry. We're going to break down the best version of each of these fighters because that's what we got to do because you don't know which one's going to show up. But we're going to break down the best version. For Victor Henry, when he's at his best, he has very good striking, very large toolbox. He's equipped with just about everything that you need as far as a striker goes. He does have good movement. The counters are there. The volume is absolutely incredible, and his best weapon, I would say, is his body kicks. When it comes to the mat, his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is very slick. He does have a large toolbox there as far as his submissions and his transitions, things like that. But he likes to overwhelm his opponents with ground and pound in order to advance position. He does this very well, and he's done it pretty much the entire time he was on the regional scene. And his cardio, it never fades. He just keeps on coming. He's like the darn Energizer Bunny. But like I said, the dude's inconsistent. Now, for Tony Gravely, similar in the fact that he has some really good highs, but also can sometimes just not be very good. He has solid wrestling, good takedowns, and once he gets on top of you, that ground and pound can be very heavy and relentless. Now, in the striking department, he does have decent boxing, but the real thing is that powerful overhand that he throws. And the reason he has such a good overhand is because of the threat of the wrestling. That's just how that works. When you have a wrestler that you're afraid is going to come for the takedown, well, that overhand is set up. So for Tony Gravely, the overhand's there with some serious force. The wrestling is there. He can get opponents to the mat. He's also super durable, so you're going to have a hard time getting him out of there. It can be done, but it's not likely for someone like Henry in this matchup because, like I said, Gravely's durable, and he's got the takedown. He can, save himself there. Unless he gets caught in a submission, that's a possibility. But anyway, both dudes are inconsistent. So you see that. I hate picking inconsistent fighters because you just don't know which one you're going to get. And for Henry, he was huge underdog when he came into the UFC. Short notice, comes in. He fights, my goodness, Barcelos. Wow, I just drew a blank there. Ione Barcelos. And nobody gave him a chance. I didn't give him a chance against Barcelos. The dude goes in there and just beats the brakes off Ione Barcelos. And then he goes and lays an egg in his next fight against Assuncao, who was on a big losing streak. Henry's coming in as a massive favorite, and he busted everybody's parlays. We all thought Henry was going to get it done after what he did to Ione Barcelos, because we know for a fact we'd be picking Barcelos over Assuncao. But then Henry just, laid a big old goose egg. It was terrible. For Gravely, he's kind of just like hit or miss. If he can get the wrestling going and he doesn't start shooting a desperation takedown or anything like that, the guy can win minutes. He can land some heavy shots on you, get the win there. I've cashed on Gravely as a dog plenty of times, and he is an underdog in this matchup here ever so slightly. I'm not going to bet this one. I can't do it. Both guys are inconsistent. The only time I can bet on an inconsistent guy is even if the worst version of them is still better than their opponent. And you know what? I don't think that's the case. But I'm going to take Gravely here because I think that the wrestling advantage of Gravely, even if the jiu-jitsu is going really well for Henry, he's going to have to get Gravely out of there using his jiu-jitsu to win because he's going to be losing minutes on his back. So I'm going to take Gravely here. There is a possibility that Henry just kind of overwhelms him with volume on the feet, and we see a lot of Gravely shooting for wild, out-of-range takedowns as he's getting his face pounded in. Let me know what you guys have. If you guys have Henry, I won't blame you, but I'm pretty sure a lot of people are down on the guy after his last matchup. But Gravely's my pick. Let me see what you got. Move on over to the women's flyweight division. We have Ariane Lipski taking on JJ Aldrich. 2-3 in the last 5 for Lipski, 3-2 for Aldrich. This is an interesting one because we have Lipski, who sometimes looks really good, like with that awesome knee bar submission that she had that was submission of the year, or at least in my opinion it was. And sometimes she gets flattened at up a weight class at women's bantamweight, and that's what happens. So you never know. Lipski, like I said, hit or miss. The ever unfortunate, inconsistent tag, but I do like Lipski a lot. She's a fun fighter. I remember her in her KSW days. The girl was fun to watch. She was the queen of violence at that point because she does have decent Muay Thai. Don't get me wrong. She has decent Muay Thai. She'll strike in flurries. Her kicks, that's probably the thing I like the most is the damaging kicks that she can bring to the table. When it gets to the mat, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is there. She does have nasty submissions, but she will get controlled on the mat from time to time. Now for Aldrich, decent boxing. She's got the good volume, decent wrestling. And her takedown defense is very good as well. But the thing that you like about Aldrich is she's consistent, she's steady, and she doesn't take hardly any risks. She just kind of grinds out a win any way she can, but, no risks. So in this one here, no bet for me. I'm going to pick Aldrich, but I'm rooting for Lipski because I just like Lipski as a fighter. I like the Lipski that we saw at KSW. I like the Lipski that's putting girls in knee bars and making them scream in pain, and then she lets out a big, you know what I mean? I'm a fan of Lipski, so we'll see what happens. Like I said, no bet for me. I'm going to just watch this one, crack open my first root beer of the night, kick my feet up on the coffee table, and have a good time. I'll see you guys in the next fight. Don't forget to let me know who you've got in this matchup. Here we've got the men's bantamweight division with Guido Cannetti taking on Mario Bautista. Both guys coming into this one in different areas in their career. We've got the young Mario Bautista, 29 years old, taking on the 43-year-old Cannetti. Cannetti's 2-3 in his last 5, where it's 4-1 for Bautista. There is a bit of a height advantage on the side of Bautista. He's 5'9" with a 69-inch reach, as opposed to 5'6" with a 68-inch reach for Cannetti. This one's an interesting one because the odds are super heavy in favor of Bautista. He's like a -9 something, -900 something. I don't know what's going on here because Cannetti looked pretty darn good in that last fight. So for Bautista, he does have solid striking. For Cannetti, he's got good striking of his own right. Both guys, volume, movement, power. Those are the things that they have. The problem with Bautista in the striking, though, is when he's throwing his combinations, a lot of times he leaves that chin right out there to get connected on. And guess who's really good at connecting on chin? Guido Cannetti. Guido Cannetti on the ground, he's all right. He's decent. I would say the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu advantage goes to Bautista, and I would say he has the wrestling advantage as well as the cardio advantage, because Cannetti does gas out pretty hard after that first round. Here's the thing. Bautista should win this fight, but he's a -900 something or another favorite. So if you've got Bautista anchoring all of your parlays, do yourself a favor and put a prop on Guido Cannetti round 1 knockout for like $10, and I bet you get crazy stupid odds. I don't know what the prop for round 1 knockout for Cannetti is, but I bet it's crazy stupid odds. But that covers when all of your parlays bust because Bautista leaves his chin out there when he's throwing some strikes, gets caught, and goes to sleep. So that's what you're going to want to do. Do yourself that favor just in case. But I do think Bautista gets this one done. I think he's the better fighter overall. Obviously, he's 4-1 in his last 5. So that leaving that chin out there hasn't really come back to bite him too often. So I'm going to take Bautista. But like I said, that just like $10 even on Cannetti by first round knockout. It'll probably yield you about $100 at least. Maybe cover whatever parlay you got anchored with him, or whatever you got to do. Throw $20 on it. I don't know. Whatever it is to cover the amount that you put down on all those big parlays that are anchored with Bautista, that'll save you from sitting there saying, oh man, another Shevchenko situation at the end of the fight. So that's where I'm at. Anyway, let me know where you guys are at. Maybe you got Cannetti, and if you do, let me know in the comments because I'm looking forward to seeing a couple of those. But I'll see you guys. Here we are in the middleweight division. We have Josh Fremd taking on Sedriques Dumas. I think is how you say that. Dumas is undefeated 7-0, so 5-0 in the last 5. 2-3 for Fremd. He's making a habit of coming in on short notice to take fights here in the UFC. Let's start with Dumas. He is a powerful striker with fight-ending intent and fight-ending power on all of his punches and kicks. He can do well with just about any of his strikes, and they're all going to come to get the kill, get the finish. On the wrestling side of things, he does have good wrestling offensively. He does go to the quick guillotine as his way to prevent a takedown, which is a horrible way to prevent a takedown, but it works for him sometimes. Otherwise, his takedown defense is not that good. Now, there is somebody who on this card later, that is a great path to victory for him to defend takedowns. But we'll cover that in that matchup. You might already know who I'm talking about. But like I said, for Dumas, the takedown defense is kind of eh. But he is a very good finisher. He looks to get the finish in every single one of his fights, and that's just what he's set out to do. By the way he wants to fight, that's what he's looking for. Now, for Fremd, he's decent everywhere. Not really good or bad anywhere, just kind of decent. Wrestling is the obvious path to victory for him. He's going to want to push Dumas up against the cage where Dumas can't hit him, or not with any clean, hard shots. He's going to want to maybe get the takedown here and there. When Dumas gets back up, he's going to have to, let him kind of work his way back to his feet, put him back up against the cage. Just kind of win minutes by control time and landing just enough to keep the fight there. Because his striking defense at range is not very good. It's another short notice fight. And realistically, Josh Fremd lost to Tresean Gore, and I don't think very highly of Tresean Gore. I know a lot of people were like, oh yeah, he should have won the Ultimate Fighter, blah, blah, blah. Well, we saw that wasn't the case when he went back and fought Brian Battle, and Brian Battle beat him. Tresean Gore has the power, and that's about it. And if you lose to Tresean Gore, I just don't see much for you in the UFC. So for Fremd, I just can't pick him. So I'm going to take Dumas here. I think he's going to stay undefeated in this matchup. I think this is a good matchup for him because, like I said, the striking defense isn't exactly there for Fremd. I'm going Dumas. Let me know what you guys think, and I will see you next week. Vets in this one in the bantamweight division. We have Davey Grant coming in 2-3 in his last 5, taking on Raphael Assuncao, who is 1-4 in his last 5, but coming off a big win over Victor Henry, where he played the upset of everybody's parlay. So for us, Assuncao, he is the shorter fighter here, 5'5", 66-inch reach against the 5'8", 69-inch reach of Davey Grant. Now, if you noticed, I put a negative next to both of their ages because neither of them are spring chickens at this point, let's be honest, especially at the bantamweight division. Davey Grant, 37, whereas Assuncao is 40. Now, this should probably be a striking match, but there is a possibility that Assuncao does start to mix in the wrestling, and for that, I'm going to cover that real quick. The wrestling of Assuncao is pretty darn good, and he does have the ability to control someone like Davey Grant on the ground. Davey Grant does have decent grappling. He's got some submission wins in his career, but it's not his bread and butter. He's better in a striking matchup, and I think that both guys kind of are going to end up in that area in this one. Now, there is the possibility that Assuncao does mix in the takedowns with his strikes, and that's going to be there, but I think the predominant part of this fight is going to end up being the striking match. Now, I could be wrong, but that's where I'm at. Now, for Davey Grant, he's a solid striker with some power. He's got good volume, and the leg kicks are there with some steam on them. And he's also very durable, so when he does get hit as well, he can come back, fire his own strikes. So even at 37, the dude can still take a shot. But, we got a guy like Assuncao who, good counter-striking. He's always kind of feinting his shots, looking at different stuff. He'll move and strike, step off to the side, strike. He's got good footwork, good movement, things like that. So for me, in this matchup here, it's going to kind of come down to, over the course of 15 minutes, who's going to deal the most damage? Because isn't that what we're supposed to be scoring on, is damage? It's a tough one. And to take into account that this is somewhat short notice for Davey Grant. He's had about 4 weeks or so, maybe 5 weeks to prepare for this matchup. Not enough that I think it's going to really be a big hindrance on him, but it's a little bit shorter for him. I'm going to lean Davey Grant, but I can't bet the fight because of what we saw out of Assuncao in the last matchup, and I don't know for sure if that was a big drop-off in Henry's performance or if that was Assuncao just, he's back, he's ready to roll again, something changed in Assuncao. That has me worried, but I do think Davey Grant is going to be he's a bit more consistent. As far as who can take the most damage, I'm going to say that's Davey Grant, and I think he'll still be in the fight, whereas I think Assuncao, if he's starting to get hit by Davey Grant's better shots, I think Assuncao's going down. So I'm leaning Grant here. Let me know who you guys have, and I'll see you guys on the smaller side of heavyweight. We have Lukasz Brezeski taking on Karl Williams. For Brezeski, he is 2-1 and another 1 for the draw and another 1 for the no contest. He's done it all in his last 5 fights. For Karl Williams, he's 4-1 in his last 5. A matchup here that is a very much a couple of different styles. We have Brezeski coming in. He's a very good striking isn't exactly what I want to call it. He's a kind of a wild striker, but he's an effectively wild striker. He does have very heavy leg kicks with some serious power in the hands as well. He's going to come forward. He's going to throw that power at you. Now, on the striking of the other side, Karl Williams, kind of decent striker, a little more of the fundamentals kind of striker, but he does have some serious power in that as well. When it comes to the grappling and wrestling and things like that, that is where things change. We have Karl Williams, who's a very good wrestler, and if you saw on his Contender Series matchup, he stepped in short notice against a guy who is a very touted wrestler coming from Penn State. They were he was the second Mo Nickel, basically. They were talking this dude up. It was Jimmy Lawson, I believe it was. I thought Lawson was going to win that fight because I did not realize that Karl Williams is even a better wrestler than the highly touted Penn State prospect of Jimmy Lawson. The dude comes out. He's got fast takedowns. His own takedown defense is actually pretty darn good. And once he gets on top of you, he can control you very well. For a guy like Brezeski, his takedown defense isn't there. It's not very good. Brezeski is a very good hammer, as we see with the striking. He's a poor nail. When he gets on the ground and starts getting beat on, that ain't so good. And he spins a lot. That can be good and that can be bad. We've seen people do really well with their spinning attacks, and we've seen people do very poorly with their spinning attacks. And I know it's all fresh in our head. Poor Valentina Shevchenko and everybody's parlays when she did that spin and then lights out, end of the championship for her. She got choked out by Alexa Grasso. So there is that. But there's also the other spin where you spin and you end up walloping your opponent and put them into the shadow realm. So that's there. When it comes to the cardio, though, Karl Williams looks really good with his cardio, and I do think that's going to help him in this matchup. For me, it comes down to two things. Do I think Brezeski can win on the feet before Karl Williams can shoot a takedown? Or do I think Karl Williams shoots a takedown before Brezeski can knock him out? And if Karl Williams can get the takedown, he's going to win the fight. If he can't get the takedown because he's sleeping, because he got knocked out by Brezeski, obviously he lost. when it comes to a striker versus a wrestler, if that striker does not have top-tier takedown defense, a lot of the times I'm going to take the wrestler, unless there's other variables, but a lot of the times. And the reason why is because the wrestler is going to dictate where the fight takes place. Because if they want you on the mat and you don't have top-tier takedown defense, guess what? They're putting you on the mat. And typically wrestlers have good cardio. Not always, but typically they do. And for me, Karl Williams is it's a pick I feel pretty good about in this matchup here, honestly. I think he's going to be able to get the takedowns. I think he's going to be able to stay on top. I think he's going to be able to land some striking when he needs to, set up his takedowns a little bit. But I think once he does get on top, he's going to be able to kind of put the hurting on Brezeski, who's not so much of a good nail. So, like the old song says, sometimes you're the hammer, sometimes you're the nail. And in this one, I think Brezeski's going to be the nail. Karl Williams coming in like a hammer. Let me know who you've got, and I'll see you light heavyweights this time. We have Anton Turkalj taking on Vitor Petrino. Now, for Petrino, he's 5-0 in his last 5 because he's 7-0, or at least on most sites he's 7-0. I've seen 7-1. I don't know. I'm going with 7-0. For Turkalj, he's 8-1. Obviously, 4-1 in his last 5 because he did take that short notice matchup against Jailton Almeida. And he made a decent account of himself for taking short notice against a guy like Jailton Almeida, who's been running through everybody. So 4-1 in the last 5 doesn't look too bad. In this one here, a slight height and reach advantage for Turkalj. I wouldn't normally put that up there, but in the striking edge, I think it's going to play a bit of a factor. 6'2", 77-inch reach as opposed to 6'4", 78-inch reach. In this one here, Petrino is clearly the better striker. He's a very solid striker with some deadly power in his hands and his feet. The guy's going to hit you with everything he's got when he hits you, and it's going to put you down. But Turkalj's a decent striker in his own right, but he does get a little bit wild at times, and that could be bad for him. However, in this matchup, a guy like Petrino, who has around average takedown defense, is going up against a guy in Turkalj who, if he wants to start getting that wrestling going, he does have some solid takedowns. And I could see him getting on top of Petrino and kind of working those takedowns over and over again to make Petrino just a little bit too hesitant to throw. Because if he goes to throw that big shot trying to put down Turkalj and he ends up on his back at the takedown a good 2-3 times, even if he is able to get back up because he's pretty good at it, he's going to have to start thinking, okay, when I throw this punch, there's a good chance I end up on my back. And if I end up on my back, well, guess what? I can't hit him with the punch. So that's going to be there for the whole fight after Turkalj lands a couple of those. Now, maybe by the end of the fight, Turkalj's able to stay on top. Maybe before that happens, he gets put to sleep. But Turkalj does have a high pace and cardio to match with it. So for that reason, I lean him in this matchup. I'm taking Turkalj here. I think he has a better shot at getting those takedowns and controlling Petrino, but I also won't be surprised if Petrino gets the win with the knockout. Now, originally I was going to bet this fight at underdog pricing for Turkalj. Now, I waited too long. I was watching it, and I kept saying, oh, man, those odds are coming in. The money's coming in on him, and I just couldn't pull the trigger. So maybe it's a sign. Maybe I should just sit back, watch this one, crack open another root beer. We already got a couple of them going. Get the feet up on the coffee table. Just enjoy this one because right now it's at pick 'em odds, and if I'm not getting plus money on Turkalj, I don't feel good about laying it. So Turkalj's a pick. Not super confident in it because there is a world where he gets knocked out. But let me know who you have. Let me know if you're drinking the root beers with me along in this fight, and I'll see you next bantamweight. And I just realized I haven't talked to you guys about liking the video yet. So if you are still here and you're still enjoying this, go ahead and do me a favor. Go ahead and hit like on this video for me. I do appreciate it very much. It shows me that you appreciate my content and that you want me to keep making these videos. Also, while you're at it, if you've been enjoying this and you want to see more videos from me in the future, maybe you go ahead and hit that subscribe button, because what that's going to do is it's going to help you find all my videos as they come out. And it's also going to help me a bit because I'm trying to get this dang thing monetized, and I need 1,000 of y'all to be subscribed to this channel, and currently you're not. So go ahead and do me that favor, do yourself that favor, and let's go ahead and break down this fight, shall we? In this one here, we have a couple of guys that just like to win. These guys are winners. Both guys 4-1 in their last 5 fights. Both guys with 17 wins on their career and very few losses. These guys are winners, and this is a darn good matchup. I'm really enjoying this one. I'm looking forward to it very much. In this one here, we've got a guy in Said Nurmagomedov who he's a very dynamic striker. He mixes in just about everything, whether it's the kicks, the punches, the knees, the elbows. He's got it all. He's got a very large toolbox, and he's also very hard to hit in his own right. He has good striking defense, whether that be moving out of the way, going straight back. deciding to, feint takedown and hit back with his own strike. Whatever he needs to do, blocking, obviously, that's a thing you could do. Whatever he has to do, the guy does a good job about just not getting hit, or at least not clean anyway. Now, for Martinez, he's a good striker in his own right. And in fact, offensively, I think he might be the more well-suited offensively in a striking matchup, because what does he do? Well, he starts with the leg kick, and that's going to set up the body kick. And then at some point, he's going to step up a head kick or two, but he's going to go right back to working the legs, right back to working the body. And then he's going to throw in another head kick every now and then. But he works those kicks really well, and he uses them to set each other up. Because if you hit somebody in the leg enough, guess what happens? They feel that oh, man, that leg's starting to hurt. He's going to throw that leg kick again. What do? I want to brace for the leg kick. And then what happens is you open up your body or your head, and guess what? That's when Jonathan Martinez sneaks that up a little bit higher and changes it over and over. After he kicks you in the head, guess what? You're going to want to say, oh, I don't want to kick you in the head again. So you go up high, and then your body and your legs are open. So he does very well with that, because he strikes within a game plan. And that's the thing I like the most about Jonathan Martinez striking. He isn't just going out there and being a good striker. A lot of guys do that, but he strikes within a game plan. He has a game plan in mind. This is what I'm going to do to pick apart this guy's striking defense, and this is how I'm going to get there. And a lot of times it's through volume and combinations, but he changes that up per fight. So I do really like the striking out of Jonathan Martinez. Good might have been too low of a rating. None of these have like an official rating. I haven't structured it that well. I'm not that good, but either way, striking's very good. Now, when it comes to the mat, what happens when they're in the grappling exchanges? Well, Jonathan Martinez has some good sweeps, and his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is there. He can put it on you on the ground, and he's got the cardio to keep up with that at any of these levels, whether it's in the striking or in the grappling. For Said Nurmagomedov, he's got good grappling, and those front chokes that he has, those are nasty. It's probably because he's got those little choking arms, those skinny forearms. He slips right under your neck. But this dude, don't try to take this guy down, because you're just asking to get your head taken off. You saw it in his last fight. You've seen it in the Sayudiku Kakarabano fight. That was his last one. Dude was getting kind of worked, and then guess what? Homie just tries to go in there and take him down, and guess who does what? Said Nurmagomedov locks up that awesome choke that he had. I believe it was a ninja choke. But that dude, he just got so deep on that. No, but there was no escape. Ask Cody Stamen about it. Ask any of these guys. Said Nurmagomedov is dangerous to take down. Don't try to take this guy down, or he's going to take your head with him. So, for me in this matchup, it's a very interesting one, because, like I said, I think both guys are very well-rounded. Both guys are winners. When I look at it, though, the odds opened a bit closer than they are now, quite a bit closer, and they're starting to get wide, and they're starting to get wide in the side of Nurmagomedov. Now, I like Nurmagomedov in the matchup, but the time to play him has come and passed. I think he's a little bit out of range right now. If you're on his side, maybe you play the under, because I think that if there is a finish, it's probably coming from the Nurmagomedov side. I don't think that Martinez is the finisher here. I think he's probably going to get a decision if he does get the win by just putting a pace on Nurmagomedov with the striking. So if you're on the and probably not getting him out of there, but probably landing quite a bit more shots. Although he did get the finish in his last fight, I don't think the leg kicks are going to build up enough on Said Nurmagomedov. I think he's going to be good enough at getting away from those. But if you're on the Martinez side, maybe you play Martinez just money line because he is the underdog, or maybe you play the over if you're just not quite sure. But the Nurmagomedov side, if you want to play him, but you're not convinced the money line's there, the under is a possibility, because I do think that he has more of the finishing upside in this matchup. But I'm on the Nurmagomedov side, but not super high on it. Let me know what you guys think. This is going to be probably fight of the night. I'm looking forward to this one very much. Let me know where you're at, and I'll see you in the featherweight matchup here. We have Austin Lingo coming in 4-1 to take on Ricardo Ramos. He is 3-2 in his last 5. In this one here, we have a couple of guys who, in the striking, are both very talented, but both very different. For Austin Lingo, he's a good boxer with tight combinations, always keeping those elbows in, turning his punches over well, just doing the fundamentals right in the boxing, but he's got plenty of power to match. On the Ramos side, he's a dynamic striker with a lot of wild, different kind of styles of movement, different things, flying, spinning, whatever. I don't like all the spins, but they seem to work for him a lot of the time. But he does have a very large toolbox to go along with this. So when it comes to this matchup here, Austin Lingo is a very fast starter, as is Ramos, but fast starter on the Lingo side. He does have decent Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu if the fight does get to the mat. And if it does, we have decent wrestling out of Ramos here. I should put good wrestling, decent wrestling. I haven't decided. I go back and forth. It's pretty good. His timing on his takedowns is what I really do like. He will time his takedowns under his opponent's punches. And when the fight gets to the mat, he is good in the jiu-jitsu department. He's very good at taking the back. However, if he ends up on his back, the problem is he can get stuck there. Now, when I talk about the jiu-jitsu on the side of lingo, I don't think it's a good path to victory for him in most of his fights, but it does complement his boxing well. If he does need to go to the jiu-jitsu, he has that there, and he's definitely not lost on the ground. He does have a few finishes by submission in his career as well, most of them over kind of lower level, but the boxing is probably his best bet to victory in this matchup unless he can mix in some of his own wrestling. But the fast starting and durability of Austin Lingo make him a tough matchup for Ramos in this matchup. For me, I'm leaning the Ramos side, but I don't like the odds. Again, we have another one where he's a bit of an overinflated favorite. He's -3 something or another right now. I don't see him as that big of a favorite in a matchup with a guy like Lingo with those boxing combinations, those tight combinations, and the power in his hands. Ramos is kind of inconsistent. Not inconsistent in his style and his skill, but inconsistent in his... inconsistent on what you're going to get out of the guy as far as whether or not he's going to win or lose if he's going to do something silly. So I'm going to take Ramos here. Not big in the confidence there. He will probably be a favorite amongst most bettors because they're going to put him in a parlay with Bautista. Let me know where you're at on that. If you have him in your parlay, probably with Bautista. Let me know if you've got that going on. But if not, let me know who you've got in the matchup. And at light heavy, we have a rebooking because Nikita Krylov got sick a couple of weeks ago. So now here we are in a 3-rounder instead of the main event. Now, I'm going to breeze through this one a little bit. If you want the full details, go look for my video. The thumbnail has these guys in the picture, so it should be easy enough to find it. But I'll go into more detail in that one. So here I'm going to breeze through it. So both guys, Ryan Spann, Nikita Krylov, both guys 3-2 in their last fight. A couple inches in height and reach for Spann. Spann, more powerful, athletic, fast starter, got the KO upside and the front chokes. When you look at Krylov, he's the more technical striker, but he'll leave his chin exposed when he's striking. He has good wrestling, but he leaves his neck exposed when he's shooting for takedowns. But he has good grappling once he can get the fight to the mat. So in this one here, I think Nikita Krylov is the better fighter overall. I think he's better in just about every situation. However, the few things that he does very poorly, Ryan Spann does very well. He connects with the chin. He's going to hurt you. Let's go ahead and draw that line. Connects with the chin. He's going to hurt you. However, you leave your neck up when you try to take him down. He's going to put you to sleep. So I do see a very likely path for Ryan Spann in a couple of different areas here, 2 of them. But I'm going to take Nikita Krylov because I think he's a better fighter overall. And I just don't think that highly of Spann's skills outside of KO power and getting that front choke early on in the fight. The under 1.5 is probably what most people are going to play. It's probably a good bet. But let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you in the next event here in the heavyweight division. And a quick reminder, go ahead and like this video if you're still here and still enjoying yourself. We have Alexander Volkov taking on Alexander Romanov. And one thing's to be sure, Alexander is going to win this matchup. I'm sure you've heard that one a lot today. So 3-2 in the last 5 for Volkov, 4-1 for Romanov. Now, if you remember Romanov's last matchup that won right there, it looked really bad after that first round. And he looked really good in that first round, but that really bad second and third round is what's sticking with a lot of people. And I think that is kind of why he opened as the underdog in this matchup, but he is now risen up to the favorite. A lot of money is coming in on Romanov because of that wrestling style that he has. And we're going to kind of get into that here in a second. But in this one here, we do have a height and reach advantage, pretty significant for Volkov. He's 6'7" with an 80-inch reach as opposed to 6'2", 75-inch reach for Romanov. Now, I'm going to give you a bit of a disclaimer here. Volkov is my favorite fighter in the heavyweight division in the UFC, so I am a little biased towards Volkov. So bear with me on that. I'm going to try and break this down as unbiased as possible, but I am a big Volkov fan. Been a big fan of his since clear back when he was fighting in Bellator. I like the guy. He's fun to watch. He just has a cool style. That kickboxing style from range. I like it. Anyway, whatever. We're going to break down this fight. We have Romanov here, who, heck of a good wrestler. Very strong wrestler. The takedowns are there, and a lot of times he likes to slam his opponents. Big, huge, energy-using slams, but they do a lot of damage. He'll suplex the guy onto their head or pick them up and just slam them down like he's trying to put them through the mat. And it does really well because it opens up the ground and pound for him to come forward with those heavy shots. He has that mauling style. And the good thing for Romanov is he is a very fast starter. But the problem is the cardio. I have a question mark because He just died after that first round in his match against Tybura. However, I went back and watched a lot of his regional fights leading up to this, so that way I could kind of see, okay, has his cardio always been bad, or was that a specific time? And he has made it late in fights before and not looked like that. But, I mean, he slows down in a fight, don't get me wrong. But he's never looked that bad. So part of it could be Tybura is just a step up in competition for him, because it was. And because of that, he tried to get him out of there in the first round, give it everything he had. And then Tybura, being the difficult fighter that he is to handle, was able to get the win overall. I thought it was a draw because there was 10-8 in the first round, but either way. On the other side, we have Volkov. Volkov, excellent kickboxing. He has the volume. He'll strike at all levels. He'll set up all these strikes. The toolbox is huge. He can use just about everything, whether that's the kicks, the punches, the elbows, the knees. He mixes them all together to all the levels, and that's what you like to see. My favorite thing that he does, though, for this fight specifically, is the front kick to the body. And the reason I like that is because the front kick to the body is going to be taxing on the cardio of Romanov. And the reason that's important is because, like we saw in the last fight, dude's gas tank fades. If you're getting kicked in the body and you're already gasping for air like that was probably really loud and annoying on the whatever. Either way, when you're gasping for air like that, so I don't know how many of you guys have ever, done any sparring or any competed in martial arts, but one thing I will tell you is that when you're gasping for air, if you're very tired, when you're breathing out, it's not too bad to get hit in the stomach. Because why? Well, you're breathing out, you can tighten the abs as you're getting hit. But if you're breathing in, because you're tired and you're breathing in and you get hit in the stomach while you're taking a breath in, oh yeah, you're not breathing anymore for a while. You get the wind completely knocked out of you. And if you're anybody that's fallen off a swing or anything like that, you can kind of get the feeling of it. When you get the wind knocked out of you, it is not fun. And then when you have another guy trying to punch your face in while you can't breathe, that's a problem. So a guy like Romanov, who he really does come hard in that early round, and if he can't get Volkov out of there in the first round, those front kicks to the body are going to really do their toll. So I do think after the first round, if you can live bet it, if Romanov wins the first round, which he probably will, I mean, he's going to come out very hard. He's probably going to get a couple of takedowns, even though the counter wrestling for Volkov is pretty darn good. But if he does get down on his back, I could see Romanov being able to lay some pounding on him. And if Volkov can survive, if Volkov survives the first round, even if he looks like he got beat up pretty bad, it might be a good spot for a live bet, because I don't think that Romanov's cardio is going to last. And I think that front kick to the body is going to be there all day after that first round, maybe even a little in the first, but after that first round. And I think that counter wrestling is only going to get better as the fight goes on. So for me, I'm taking Volkov in the matchup. He is an underdog, about like plus 135 or something like that right now. Like I said, Volkov is also my favorite heavyweight. The only time I bet against him, I also hedged it off too. I did bet against him in the Aspinall fight. But I bet on both sides in that fight, so because both of them were plus money at one point. Either way, I've never bet against him otherwise. I like the guy. I don't always bet on his fights, but I'm going to put a small bet on him here because I think that after the first round, Volkov has a really good shot at getting this one done, and I think he can probably finish Romanov because he does have enough power that when he starts putting his nice, crisp combinations together, a guy that's already tired out and been kicked in the stomach a few times is going to go down like a sack of potatoes. So that's where I'm at. Where are you guys in this one? Let me know, and I'll see you in the main event. We made it to our main event, and this is your last reminder. Hey, please go like this video if you've enjoyed yourself. Like I said, it shows me that you appreciate my content, so I'm going to keep making it. If you don't like the video, well, why are you still watching? Let's go ahead and get into the main event here. We have Merab Dvalishvili taking on Petr Yan. Now, this one's interesting because both guys have very similar overall records, 16-4 to 15-4, but their last 5 fights, not as much. Dvalishvili has all the momentum going in, 5-0, whereas Yan's had a rough run. He's 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Now, something I want to point out about Petr Yan, all of his losses in his entire career, all 4, one of them was a DQ, but so all 3 of the others that were not a DQ are split decision losses. He's never lost a fight that is not a split decision or DQ, I guess. O'Malley, Magomedov, and then, what's his name? Champion. Sterling, golly, wow, that was wild. Okay, Sterling, Magomedov, And then O'Malley, all 3 split decision losses, and he did get that Magomedov one back. So keep that in mind. Anyway, in this one here, we're looking at a guy who does a lot of different things, all well-rounded skill set, good stuff, against a guy that does something, just one thing very, 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 very well. And we're going to break that down real quick. We're going to go with Merab Dvalishvili first. We're going to go with the wrestling here. His wrestling, it's not great in the sense that he has the best wrestling, but for what he uses it for, it is great. And that's why I give it that rating of great, which I don't really know if that means anything. But either way, he's relentless with his wrestling, and you've seen it in all of his matchups. He just continues to go on you like a dog on a bone. He's trying to get you to the mat, get control of you. He'll chain his takedowns together, push you up against the cage, and just win minutes. And that's what he does. And that is why one of the reasons I don't like him, he annoys the crap out of me, because he's going to try to just hold you there and win on control time, which drives me crazy. But it works for him. Obviously, he's 5-0 in his last 5, so it's working for him. Now, the dude's got a very high motor and insane cardio. You're not going to tire this guy out. He's going to keep coming. If he does get tired, he doesn't show it. He just keeps on coming. He's got a solid chin to keep him in the game, even if he is getting hit. And his one real striking upside is his spinning back fist. He'll fling it out there. Sometimes it hits, sometimes it doesn't, but it keeps you guessing. And he knows that the threat of the takedown isn't really something he's going to worry about, because he's going to reverse position on you if you try. He's just got a solid chin and going to just keep going forward with his cardio until he gets you to the mat and he can start wearing on you. That is his path to victory in just about every fight. That's what he's going to try and do. Maybe he'll knock you out with a spinning back fist, but either way, that's what we're looking for on the Dvalishvili side. There's not much you need to really take into account. He does this very, very well. And anybody picking Dvalishvili in this matchup knows that he is a killer in the minute-winning department. So when you look at Jan, though, Petr Yan, on the other hand, is a very high-level striker. Now, I've wrote a lot down here because I spent a lot of time really breaking down Jan and why is he 2-3 in his last 5 fights. What's going wrong with Jan? So I spent a lot more time on Jan in this one because what Dvalishvili is doing is working. What Jan is doing is somehow just not working right now. And I know a lot of people are arguing, the loss to O'Malley was not right or whatever. Well, guess what? It's a loss on his record. And you know what? He needs to change that, because whether or not the fans think he won, if he's going to the judge's decision and they're not giving him the decisions, that's a problem. And he's not getting paid his win for that. He's just losing on the scorecards, and that's not what you want. So for Jan here, like I said, high-level striking. He does have good forward pressure. He's going to come at you with combinations, mix up his different strikes to different levels. A lot of times it's the boxing, but he'll mix in the kicks, the trips, things like that. His leg kicks are pretty good. He'll mix the boxing to the body, mix it to the face, whatever he's got to do. And he's good at counters too. So against a guy like Dvalishvili, it's kind of weird because he will strike. Don't get me wrong, but it's not what you're used to countering for a guy like Jan. It might be really easy for him to counter, or it might just kind of catch him off guard a little bit. But because Jan is a bit of a slow starter, as I point out down here, he is a bit of a slow starter. So maybe in that first round he won't be able to counter so well, but as it goes on, he'll be able to get there. But what he does a lot of times is he likes that block and return. He'll block the shots, your 2-3-4 combo or whatever you're throwing, come back right at you with what he's throwing of his own, and he'll be able to throw his strikes after blocking, but he doesn't wait till you finish. He'll come back after when he sees the opening off of something. So if you're coming in with a 2-3-2, and he sees the 2-3 come out and he says, oh, right there's my shot, the 3's here, and you're one of those goofs that drop their other hand when they throw the 3, well, then your chin's open. Or he says, okay, I'm just going to go over the top of that hook and I'm going to hit the guy. But he comes back while he's blocking and sees that opening and goes. He doesn't close his eyes, he doesn't flinch up. He comes at you while you're striking. And he can do that because he keeps that high guard and he has the ability to pivot off while he's blocking. So he's going to be blocking here. He's going to pivot off and drop those shots at you when he needs to, when that opportunity arises during the middle of that. The reason he can do that, but also what puts him in danger, is that he stands right there in front of his opponents. He's not back at long distance range, and part of it is because he's just short and small. He's got a small wingspan. He's a short guy, so he's not back a lot of the time. He's in the close, in the pocket, right in front of you, trying to land those boxing combinations and then get into the clinch, work his trips. We'll cover those in a second. But he's able to do this well because he does have a solid chin and he's very durable. We're going to go back to this one here in a second. First, I want to go down the clinch because I mentioned it. a lot of times he'll go from boxing range into clinching range, and then he still starts to work the dirty boxing. A lot of times the elbows. But with the elbows, he'll also mix in some knees, hopefully to the body or to the face while the opponent's standing. Hopefully not when they're on their knees, because we know he messed that one up. But he does work the knees in there, but the elbows are where he gets it done in the dirty boxing. Hits the uppercuts to the body, works, things like that. He does very well. But the thing that's interesting is the trips and throws, because if you can mix those in against a guy like Dvalishvili, how does Dvalishvili react? Does he hit the mat and immediately grab a leg and try to get a takedown of his own? Because that's what I think he does, and I don't think that's a good path for Jan. I hope he doesn't end up trying to go for these trips and then get his leg caught. If he does go for a trip, he needs to get the trip, make it completely sweep Dvalishvili off his feet, and then get back away and regain his distance, so that way he doesn't just get taken down right after that. But he does do that well in a lot of his fights. And he does actually have a very good takedown defense. It's about 90% in the UFC, so that's very important. The thing I don't like about the striking of Jan is his naked kicks. He just throws them with zero setups. Like, he'll set up all of his other strikes, but for whatever reason, he throws these naked kicks. And a lot of times you'll see him switch to the southpaw stance, and then he'll throw a rear leg roundhouse kick with his left leg. I don't know why, but if you see him switch to a southpaw stance, you'll see it. Watch the fight, and if I'm wrong, come back to this video and tell me I'm wrong. But when he switches that southpaw stance, the next thing you're probably going to see is maybe a punch or two, but then that rear leg roundhouse kick is coming out. He, for whatever reason, just feels the need to switch to that southpaw stance, throw that kick, and then go right back to orthodox. And he does this a lot. And he just throws it naked. No setup most of the time, nothing. I don't like it. I hate it. I don't know why he does it. I mean, I guess I understand why he's doing it. He wants to have that kick come from that side. He has a good kick from the left leg. But I don't know. It's just he doesn't set it up. If he would set it up, it'd be fine. And if he also would switch to southpaw, use his boxing a little bit for a while, and then maybe go to the kick, send more of those kicks from the orthodox side. I don't know. He's got to do something to change that up, because it's when you see him switch, you know it's coming. And I think fighters are starting to pick up on it. So that's there. The last thing I do want to mention that I think sets Jan apart, and he's kind of gotten away from it recently, is his killer instinct. And I think that is why these three are here. I think he lost some of that killer instinct after the disqualification. And I say that because he kind of felt like a putz in that moment. Because he did something he knew was against the rules, and his only recourse for this is, oh yeah, somebody in my corner told me that. Well, you know the rules. Don't be stupid. You know the rules. Well, he messed it up. And you know what? Even if you're the baddest dude on the planet, if you feel stupid, you're not going to perform as well. We can all feel stupid, and just about everybody will have this, where when you feel stupid in a moment, you're just not going to be good at what you're doing. And I think Jan had that problem in the next matchup against Sterling. That killer instinct just wasn't there. Yes, he would come in, try to hit the guy. Obviously, this is a cage fight, but he just didn't have that same killer instinct he had that brought him to the title. We saw it again in the O'Malley fight, where a lot of times, like, he's looking for these takedowns, but he's not doing enough damage while he's doing this. And he'll get the takedown, and he wasn't getting the damage in, and that's why the judges, in my opinion, gave it to O'Malley, because O'Malley was able to do enough damage, and when Jan did get the takedown, he didn't do enough with it. And that was the problem, because that killer instinct just wasn't quite there. So in this one here, if Jan brings back the killer instinct, which I think he will, I do think he will. I think he's fed up enough with what's been going on. He feels like he's been robbed by the judges in a couple of matchups. So I do think that Jan's going to bring back that killer instinct. And if he does, I think he's going to get the win. And I'm going to pick Petr Yan here. But he's a really big favorite. And a guy coming in 2-3 in his last 5 against a 5-0 in his last 5 as a really big favorite scares me just a wee bit. Especially when that guy that you're fighting is Merab Dvalishvili, who, although I do not like him as a fighter, he's very talented and very good at what he does. He comes forward with that high motor and uses that just relentlessly in his pace. Merab's almost certainly going to win the first round. Like we all know, Jan starts slow. Merab is probably going to get the first round. Can Jan win the next 4? Or can Jan get the stoppage? And darn it, if he gets the stoppage, that's what he needs. He needs to get this stoppage here. Because if he gets that stoppage, he can say, I didn't leave it in the hands of the judges, and look what happened. That's what he needs. But I'm picking Jan. Let me know your opinions, not even just on who you've got in the fight. Let me know if you think my analysis on what's going on with Petr Yan here is correct. Let me know if you've also noticed those weird naked leg kicks that he throws every time he switches to southpaw. Let me know what you think about all the junk I just said, and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys next time when we UFC 286 next. So I'll see you guys there. Have a good time. Party hard.